There you are, sitting on the deck facing the ocean of your multi-million-dollar rented home. You're sitting back with a beverage in hand thinking, I'm just so grateful for everything that I have. Well, sure, that's easy, during a week-long vacation. But what when you taking a normal walk and you slip in the slush and then you sprain your ankle? Can you be grateful then too? That's next on this episode of the Gratitude Journal podcast.
This is the Gratitude Journal podcast.
Woo! As Donna likes to say, it's a scorcher out there. And it has been that way all week, as it has in most of the continental United States of America. Matthew here from the comfy confines of the basement lair here in Northeast Ohio, wishing you a good Sunday morning, almost Sunday afternoon. And thanking you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Gratitude Journal podcast. The podcast designed, as you know, to help me and hopefully to help you find better, more feasible ways to be grateful for the things that we have. Sorry for just bumping the microphone. I was taking my cheater glasses off, and I can say right now I'm grateful for having cataract surgery. This is craziness. Did I talk about this in the past episode? I think I did, about how I've just been kind of ranting and raving. Now, it's not perfect because I didn't have the money, to do the whole shebang. But I did have health care, which I'm grateful for, and that paid for, a good chunk of it, enough for me to replace both natural lenses given to me by some divine entity. And now I am able to, with the help of science, to see as I have never seen since I was 6 years old. So, yeah, I'm grateful for that. But in the meantime, this podcast designed to help with ways to find gratitude in the small things that we may not normally see. And that brings me to, my opening salvo, which was really the subject matter for an article that I write for the non-commercial public radio station for whom I work on the website called The Summit Now. I should say the section of the Summit website, which is really thesummit.fm. There is a tab called Summit Now, and in it, I am asked to contribute monthly, sometimes twice monthly, article contributions that focus on gratitude. And as I've been writing these over the past year, I've said to myself, I could probably just kind of repurpose some of this stuff for the podcast and, of course, later the video podcast. I know you think I'm not going to do it, but I am. I am going to do that, okay? It's kind of like that same person who says, I am going to lose 20 pounds by the time I go on vacation. And then, they look at themselves on their iPhone with the pictures and go, you know what? I really didn't lose that 20 pounds. I'm going to break that mold. I promise you that. But I had written this article and I called it When the Smoke Clears. And I think it's probably good fodder to kind of revisit because our whole family has been involved in some pretty epic events, one of which was my nephew's wedding, and the other, which will happen tomorrow, which is moving my parents from their current place into another floor, which will give them more medical care. Now, these are big, huge events. And I think, as I mentioned in the article, it's sometimes seemingly easier, although no less important, than to be, sitting in a vacation spot and, sipping your favorite beverage and counting your blessings, just going, wow, this is great that we're able, to rent this beach house for a whole week and just pretty much for the next 7 days, just do nothing, in parentheses, but spend money. There is an argument that, yes, this is to be grateful. We can be grateful for this. This is This is an epic event. You deserve it. You want to do it, whether you deserve it or not. And, you should do it if that's what you want to do. I think that these are events that are big, as I call them, big brushstroke events. And I liken that to my nephew's wedding, which was an epic affair. My twin brother and his wife did fabulously with their family. Everybody's healthy and moving forward, and they have great jobs and they have healthy children. And, this was the last son, the youngest son, to get married. He married, into a wonderful family and vice versa. And everything just looks great, to the naked eye and on paper. And I'm hopefully, as they get into their relationship and drill down into it and live the regular everyday existence, that the same will hold true. As I was thinking about this, though, we spend all this time sort of prepping and primping and spending money, and you're going to the wedding and everybody looks nice. And then, several hours into the day and into the evening, as the reception goes on and people are sort of, sweating up on the dance floor, you realize that all that primping and prepping, that's long gone. And then when it's over, the piles of tuxes and whatever go thrown into the corner, and now you got to take them to the dry cleaner. And Donna was wearing a dress that we bought for her, and I thought she looked splendid. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you can see a picture of Donna in her beautiful dress. And I was taking it to the dry cleaner, and this hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, this is the aftermath of these events that we deal with, representative of the aftermath. And that is, we have to go back to our normal life when the smoke clears. I am by no means patting myself on the back, but I do think that one of the goals that I have as far as being grateful and being thankful goes is to try to, I guess, for want of a better word, use empathy, because I would want somebody to be empathetic to my situation. Now, is that bad? Like, is that too much id? Is that too much like me? I don't think so. But as a caregiver, I feel, this is a question that gets posed to me a lot. It's like, what are you doing for you? And automatically, when you consider that, you focus on that part of the equation. And I usually answer A, not a whole lot. B, I'm not really sure what to do. And C, I don't really have a C. So I'm kind of hovering out there in the cold. But I do think that we as humans want other humans to at least empathize, with what we're going through. And as I mentioned at the top of this podcast, we've all been experiencing this mammoth heat dome. And it makes me very sad, to know that there are people that, primarily have jobs outside. They have to put up with these jobs outside. And it makes me, grateful for that work that they do that affects me. And the one person that does work every day that affects us is our letter carrier. And for years and years, we had this gentleman named Stan, and he was our letter carrier, and he was great, kind of quiet, but he was very nice, and he loved the dogs. And first, Izzy, who never barked for whatever reason, barked at him. And then, he, as my friend Pat Hedger, told me years ago, you got to get down on our dog's level. So he kind of got down on the porch, and then Izzy warmed up, and then, they were fine, and he loved the dogs, and he was our letter carrier, and then he retired. And then we got this little lady named Katie, and, she's sweet, and she's cute, and even Donna says she's cute, and she stops to talk. And I've just been thinking a lot about her being out in this weather. And so I was coming home the other day, for lunch to check on Donna. And then I realized that Donna and her friend Jean were kind of still out and about. And so I was heading home to get some lunch to take back to the radio station with me. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to stop and get a bottle of water for Katie. I'm going to go drive her on a route and try to find her and give her, I'm sure she has lots of liquids because this is what letter carriers do. You know, they have to stay hydrated in this. And, you know, on the other side of the continuum, they have to stay warm. And, you know, I've certainly in my walks, I've run across her and, you know, she's bundled up. She's like, no, I'm not, I'm feeling great. No. And so I bought this bottle of water and I saw where her truck was parked and I stopped and I saw her kind of traipsing through a yard going from one house to the other. And I pulled up and I said, you know, you need this. And, you know, she seemed kind of taken back that I would stop to get her a bottle of water. I'm not bringing this up to pat myself in the back, but I do think that as I was buying this water, I was kind of thinking, you know, maybe this is sort of a pay it forward event, like somebody empathizing with my situation, you know, and the kinds of things that we're going through, and that maybe this is a way for us, instead of always focusing on ourselves, to focus on somebody else. And I know that, like, I need to be better at that. But I think that, you know, she was thankful for that. And it made me want to maybe try to tell myself to reach out more in an empathetic mode so that I also can realize that, you know, being grateful for the big, broad brushstroke things are great and they're fine and they're valid and they're not any more or less important, but they're not the only things, you know, that we should be grateful for. And that maybe, in a sense, you know, getting that bottle of water maybe was kind of a teaching moment for me. I have this friend named Kim, and I don't think she listens to this podcast, so I don't think I'm really sharing anything that I shouldn't share. Because I've had other people, you know, when they say, oh, I heard you say something about the podcast, and, you know, maybe a couple of people that I know. I don't know too many people who I know who actually listen to this. I don't think there are too many people who listen to this anyway, but it doesn't really matter. I said at the start, you know, when I first started doing this years ago, I really wasn't doing it for anybody else aside from trying to give myself, you know, maybe some clarity about the things that I already have that I may not see. And I think that's the purpose of gratitude. And I really think, as I formulate this first video episode, this is what I really want to talk about, that I think it's a lifelong pursuit. And it's not an easy pursuit, because these things where, like, you know, look in your garage and if you have 3 cars and whatever, you think, oh, I'm so grateful for all these things that I have. I mean, I think those are valid. I think you can make a case for those, but I don't really think that's really the point. I think the point is to, on a daily basis. I mean, we don't buy a car every day. Maybe Elon Musk does, but, you know, we don't buy a car every day. I mean, the things every day that, you know, we can at least find a way to be thankful for, I don't know, a person in our life or the smallest thing. And I have this friend, Kim, who just, I don't know, for whatever reason, you know, a lot of times it's financial stuff and just trying to manage everything, because I'm not a good manager. And yeah, I was going over some things, you know, relative to house, and, you know, we've been wanting to move, but it just hasn't happened. And, you know, Kim is very methodical in her approach, and she's a phenomenal listener. Like, when I'm talking, she doesn't say anything. She doesn't go, you know, a lot of, you know, she just listens. And then when I'm done and, you know, there's a space in the conversation, then she goes, okay, all right, I've heard you. I'm going to chime in with a few things. And then I know what she's going to give me is, you know, actionable feedback and all that. And it's done out of a feeling of, you know, respect and care. And I really respect that. And, you know, she said to me, I think that, Matthew, when you look at the way that you're trying to be the best caregiver you can be, and you're trying to look at the best way to, you know, sort of manipulate having a full-time position and then working for clients and everything that you do, I think that you have to look at it like you're managing a business. And you've run a business, you kind of know what that feels like, and you have to have an almost kind of objective, almost kind of soulless approach to some things about managing various aspects of your life, because emotion can kind of get into it and you have to not do that. And she said, from decades of working with couples buying houses and trying to get financed for things, I have to show them that, listen, I know that you really want this, but from a practical aspect, you have to look at this objectively. And when you're looking at that, $2,300 a month payment, is that something that's going to be manageable going forward after you've moved everything into the house and you have people over for the first time and you're kind of boasting and bragging about it? Once that smoke clears, like, what does that look like? And I'm trying to come to grips and terms with some of those things that she suggests to me. And I'm not saying that I have a full understanding of them, but what I can say is I'm thankful that I have this person who can be empathetic and to, share that. I mean, in a sense, like, I got a bottle of water, from her this week. So I think it's kind of a good thing to let the smoke clear. The smoke is going to clear on its own anyway, and you're going to see things with clarity. I'm not trying to be preachy. I'm just saying, I think that that's the way it is. Like, you can't, like, someone said to me, well, you have to make this decision today. It was some guy trying to sell me something. And I said, listen, I don't operate like that usually. I can do an impulse thing, but as I advance along the AARP status line, I have a tendency to weigh things out. Like, somebody wanted to do some work here and they're like, I can give you like this day, if you lock in today, I can give you the such and such. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm a 3 estimate kind of guy when it comes to this stuff. I've been burned too many times. I've been locked into guys who are nice guys and then, they do half the job and don't show up. And I may, after getting the 3 estimates, I may still F it up. I mean, that's clearly possible. But in my head, I want to make sure that I've kind of done, the work first. And I find myself kind of being a little more like that, as I advance along the time continuum, and a little less impulsive, or trying to be a little less impulsive. So I'm just like trying to do my homework, because I'm, looking at things for 2 people instead of just one person. And I feel like sometimes you got to let that time elapse first before you can really make a decision. This is going to sound weird, but I've been trying to study for, I got a drone, but I want to get certified to use it. I have a film that's in the process of coming together, and, in it is going to be some drone footage that I've been sort of salivating over, because I love drone imagery, but I don't just want to operate a drone. I want to have all my, particulars in order, and I don't want to get fined by the FAA. So I've been studying for this test. But I got waylaid because somebody said in an article, and I think it might have been AARP, you should use a safety razor instead of these cartridges, because, cartridges for razors, oh my gosh, they're so expensive. And, you go through them and you're racking up all this money, and someone said, just buy a good safety razor. But they've always scared me. The razor my dad used to use. Like, I'm going to cut my head off, with this thing. But I got waylaid from my studies by using my bike ride in the morning to, watch videos of, basically watching guys shave. I know it sounds boring, but there's a whole, like, you can go in the rabbit hole on this stuff. And so I, narrowed it down to 5 razors, and I narrowed it down to 3. And then I, what blade should I use? And what pre-shave should I use? Kind of like the way I approach coffee or approached coffee and still do. And it's been kind of fascinating, kind of exciting, but it's also taken me off my game as far as studying for the drone. And so I've narrowed it down, and I made a purchase, and I reached out to someone and said, hey, I know it's used. Can you give me free shipping? No, I can't do free shipping, that kind of thing. So hopefully I like it. And so I've been trying to approach stuff like that, like a little less impulsive and a little more rationale in doing my homework. And I think I'm trying to let the smoke clear on a bunch of different areas, and hopefully I'm successful in that. I don't know. There we go. I bought a new computer. It's for me, not for my work, not for the business. It's for me, so I can record these, because I'm having some issues with this older computer. And I think I've been waylaid on this particular episode by a couple of days, because I've been waiting for somebody in support to get back to me, and they never got back to me. And I just rebooted everything, and I tried a couple things and tested, and I don't know. I got it to work. So you hear it, and it's working now, but I don't know what's going to happen. So behind me is some new gear, and I'll set it up and figure things out. I don't know. But the heat has been wild. I know in St. Louis, I say to people, hey, hazy, hot, humid, high of 90, you deal with that like 4 months out of the year. But it's been really rugged this week, and we've survived. I went on my walk this morning. There was a little bit of cool breeze in the air and a little bit of mist from some rain from earlier in the morning. And man, did it feel good. Almost as good as that shower felt last night after a day of being out in the sun and doing stuff and moving things in the garage. And anyway, I digress. So hopefully you maybe let the smoke clear a little bit. Hopefully somebody, I don't know, gave you a cool bottle of water. Isn't it nice to get something when you really, really need it or want it? That's pretty cool. And there you go. Hope you're safe. Hope you're well. If you're experiencing all this heat, I hope that, you haven't been affected too much or damaged by it or been sick. And thank you for downloading and listening to this, another episode of the Gratitude Journal podcast.